Hello, everyone. So, my no spoiler review of Prince of Thorns will be top line of the description. So, if you don't want spoilers, click on that. But this review will have many spoilers, so you've been warned. So, first off, I want to say Jorg is incredibly well written in terms of his sinister, demented brain, and it's well explained why he's like that and how he got to be like that with the traumatic experiences, obviously detailed on the back of the book, but also he's entitled, and that comes out in addition to his like heartless cruelty in a lot of the most brutal things he does. So the first person he kills, that brother with the G name, whose name I can't remember now, but the reason he killed him is A, because Jorg just doesn't care about other people, and B, because he dared question his power, and Jorg thinks he deserves power. It's embedded into everything he thinks. He was born with the idea that he would be a king. And that's seen with like his interactions with his father and his thoughts during those interactions of like, yeah, I deserve to be your heir. And he wants it for totally personal reasons and not humanitarian or egalitarian reasons, obviously. And you also see it in his treatment of women, especially non royal women or women with no power, which I suppose is kind of, since it's the medieval era, blah, 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 no one's woke. But even the way he sees Catherine, who is like on his level of royalty, I don't feel like he actually likes her at all. It's more about she has power, so I desire her. That's the way I read it, at least. It's also a way to kind of give his father the middle finger while also trying to get his approval. He's always caught in this weird situation of like, yeah, like I want to like get your approval, but like I hate you too, because obviously the king wants nothing to do with him, and he knows that deep down, which contributes. I mean, again, if he needed more things to make him an insane person, his father's treatment of him is definitely not helpful, but he also wants his approval, and it's like, oh, like this royal Catherine's sister, my father approved of, so maybe if I have Catherine, that will get his approval. It's weird. But even though it's weird, it's well done and understandable. There's different ways of interpreting different things, and I usually can kind of interpret his actions in both ways. It's like, oh, he had a lot of traumatic experiences as a child, so that's what contributes to him being messed up. But also, he wants power and he thinks he's entitled to power, so that also contributes. I don't see it as a one or the other, but I'm sure some people could read it that way. Another good scene with Jorg is when he tells the commander to tell one of his men to jump off the waterfall and die, and the commander tells him, and the guy's like, heck no, no, of course I'm not gonna kill myself. And Jorg's like, well, we need a commander who will inspire people to face certain death. And then he just pushes the commander off the waterfall, and he's like, you're the commander now. And it's just like, what? So let's talk about the magic. The magic I didn't have a problem with was the villain's magic, so Sagius and Corian. Those magicians, I'm fine with their magic, even though it's not really well defined. That's kind of the point. They're the villain, and you have to overcome them somehow. And they have this all powerful magic that can totally immobilize you. And then there was a standard necromancy and ghosts coming back, standard undead magic stuff that I'm okay with. And Nubin actually explained it pretty well when he was like, on the day of 1,000 suns, the door between the dead and the living broke because so many people died. And since it's post apocalyptic, that's like awesome because it explains, like, oh, so many people died. It seems to imply weapons of mass destruction causing the end of the world rather than some sort of illness or disease, which kind of kills people slowly. or over the course of a year. Nubin implies that it all happened in a day in like some sort of firestorm, and it also destroyed everything, so that's why we're back in this medieval era type situation. But yeah, the necromancy I'm totally on board with. I think it fits the setting well in terms of it being a grim, dark fantasy setting, having this sort of dark necromancy, raising the dead type of magic. I think that's a good decision and was executed well. All right, now let's talk about where this book lost me. All right, when his father stabs him and he just doesn't die, like, why? Why? He was stabbed, like, in the chest. Ugh. He should be dead. But then after, we're going to retroactively explain that because he ate the necromancer's heart, he's like kind of undead now, so he won't die. Who needs blood to survive, right? Who needs it? But even if I buy that he would have lived, I don't buy Catherine and their servant not killing him. He's there. They want him dead. He's on the ground. He's still breathing, but like just end him. And then when he comes to a few chapters later, it implied that he was like out for days. And it's like, oh, come on, just end him. Like, he's clearly a threat to the kingdom. If you don't end him, his father should have ended him because he clearly wanted him dead because he stabbed him in the heart. It took a lot for me to buy that he's still alive. And I was really liking the book up until that point. Well, obviously can't die because he's the main character and it's in first person, so that would be really awkward if Jorg just died. But then I put the book down, I did some breathing, I came back, and I read more, and I'm like, all right, he's alive. We're just going to deal with it. Like, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. He's just okay. And then he went to the Renar Highlands at that tournament, which was pretty cool. I liked how it devolved into total chaos during it, and you had all of Jorg's brothers just defending him, and Jorg was going to die, and the crossbow bolt killing the person that was about to kill Jorg. Like, that's the kind of suspense I like, not like, oh, he got stabbed and now he's alive. But I digress again. So then he runs into Corian, who is the Renar Highlands mage who kind of controls the Count and everyone. He's an all-powerful mage. He's a bad guy. He's also aligned with Sagius, who was the bad mage in his father's kingdom. So this magician freezes Jorg in place, and it's like, wow, how could we have not seen that happen? But it's in Jorg's character to kind of be like, oh, we're going to figure it out as we go. And, like, even if I'm clearly going to probably die here, it's fine. When it said the only movement he could make was to put his dagger forward, I'm like, oh, something's going to happen with that now. Jorg tries the necromancy on him. It doesn't work. And he's like, ha ha ha, it's not working. And he's just sitting there taunting Jorg. And then a horse kicks Jorg in the back, pushing him forward into Corian and plunging the dagger into him. Come on, man. Why? You couldn't think of a better way to get out of that situation other than just pure coincidental dumb luck. Obviously, you can't have his brother save him again because they just did that few pages earlier. So you've got to think of something more creative, and I don't like the luck thing. I would have preferred Jorg manipulate one of the horses to kick Corian or something into him with his newfound necromancy powers or something. Or, I don't know, manipulate one of Corian's troops with his newfound necromancy power. I don't know. I just don't. But just it being seemingly purely a 1 in a million type thing happening, especially after the resurrection, didn't really sit well with me. To make some sort of defense of Mark Lawrence, this was his first published book, and I'm on the Goodreads now, and it looks like the follow-up books have higher ratings by a significant amount, almost by half a star. And even before I looked at that, I had determined that I'm gonna keep reading because I like Jorg and I like the world that's been built, and I like Lawrence's writing style of quickly going through stuff. I feel like I'm getting enough world building without too much world building or too much George R. R. Martin world building of over explaining everything sometimes. So to sum up, Jorg, good. The rest of the characters, they're there. They're more used as like pawns on Jorg's chessboard, and that's how they're presented, which makes sense because it's first person. Characters, good. World building, good enough. I never felt like I needed more world building. I always seemed to know what was going on, but I think he could have probably added more, and I still would have been happy. Bad, the silver bullet of him just not dying when he was stabbed in the heart, and I felt like the horse kick could have been something better, like Jorg using his necromancy on something, even if it was just to like disrupt Corian, that would have been fine. And then maybe he could have like stabbed him when he was distracted or something. I don't know. Great first published book by Mark Lawrence. I think any author who writes a book that's this good as their first published book should be very happy. And even though I'm kind of leaning towards maybe 3.5 stars or only 3 stars, I would recommend this book only to people who like grim dark fantasy, though. It's too dark. Jorg is too hard to root for if you need a protagonist that's a halfway decent person. So keep that in mind if you've read the book and are looking to recommend it to someone or not recommend it to someone. Just say, how do you feel about anti-heroes or something? Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I probably will review these books, and I won't do the no spoiler reviews for these because, yeah, you've probably read them. So after I read the second book, I will pin a no spoiler comment in the comments just so you guys know, like, hey, these are my no spoiler thoughts on this book. So you can make a determination if you respect my opinions on books, if you should read the next book or not. All right, anyway, bye.